You ever look around your life and think, well, this is about as low as it gets? That was me. No job. No girlfriend. No real friends either, just the kind of people who text you when they're drunk or need a ride. I was staying in a converted garage behind my cousin's house, which sounds cool until you realize it didn't have a bathroom and the roof leaked when it rained sideways. My truck was held together by duct tape and regret, and the only steady thing in my life was the ache in my knees from standing 10 hours a day at a warehouse that laid me off last month. And then came the fire. It was about 11:30 p.m. and I was driving the long way home from the gas station, mostly because I didn't want to go back yet. I took the winding back road that cuts through a stretch of old pine trees, the kind of place that's pitch black at night and smells like damp earth and oil. I had the window down, radio low, lost in my own head. That's when I saw it. First the flash, like a camera going off in the trees. Then the sound, crunching metal, shattering glass, and the screech of something heavy dragging itself across asphalt. I slammed the brakes. Gravel spat from my tires. For a split second, nothing. Then, a flicker of flame behind the tree line. My brain screamed go. My feet obeyed. I jumped out and ran. The car had gone off the road, nose first into a shallow ditch. Smoke curled out of the engine like fingers reaching for the sky, and the flames, small at first, were starting to crawl their way across the hood. Inside was a man. Slumped, head against the airbag, blood on his temple. I didn't think. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the door handle and yanked. Locked. I shouted, "Hey, can you hear me?" But he didn't move. That's when the fire hit the windshield. Panic punched me in the chest. I backed up, grabbed a big rock from the ditch, and hurled it at the window. It cracked, but didn't break. I did it again. And again. Finally, smash glass rained down. I reached in, cut my arm on something, but I didn't stop. I unbuckled the guy, got my arms under his, and pulled like hell. The car groaned behind me. Something popped under the hood loud. A burst of flame leapt up. My face went hot. My heart was a jackhammer. And then we were clear. I dragged him 10 feet, maybe 15, before I collapsed on the gravel, gasping. He coughed once. Then again. Eyes fluttered open, dazed, confused. Where? You're okay, I said, voice raw. You're safe. Sirens wailed in the distance, finally. Red and blue light started to pulse through the trees. I laid back on the ground, heart still pounding like it was trying to outrun my ribs. You saved my life, he said quietly. I looked at him. His face was cut and soot-streaked, but something about it felt familiar. Like I'd seen him on TV once. Or the cover of a book. I think I know who you are, I said. He coughed again, nodded slowly. I'm Dean Travers. The name hit like a bolt. Dean Travers. Best-selling author. Former tech CEO. The guy who built an empire and then walked away from it. His TED Talk had, like, 20 million views. People quoted him like scripture. And now he was here. Bleeding. Alive. Because of me. The EMTs took over. I gave a statement to the cops, let them bandage my arm, then drove home in a daze. I figured that was it. A weird, wild night I'd never forget. I was wrong. That was just the beginning. 2 days passed. The world didn't change. Not right away. I went back to my routine, or what was left of it. Woke up to the sound of raccoons knocking over trash cans, ate cold cereal in a chair that used to belong to my mom's dentist office, and tried not to think about the fact that I had exactly $28.41 in my bank account. And then my phone rang. Private number. I let it go to voicemail. But 30 seconds later, it rang again. I answered on instinct. Yeah? A woman's voice. Crisp, calm. Is this Mr. Cole Adams? That's me. You're requested at the Maddox Center at 4 p.m. today. Transportation will be provided. What? You pulled Mr. Travers from the crash. He would like to see you. A car will arrive at your address by 3:15. Click. That was it. No explanation. No chance to say no. I stared at the screen like it might start explaining itself. Dean Travers, that Dean Travers wanted to see me. I threw on my best jeans, which had one fewer hole than the others, cleaned up as best I could, and waited. At exactly 3:15, a sleek black SUV rolled up to the curb like a scene out of a movie. The driver didn't say much, just nodded, opened the door, and drove like he was gliding. The city blurred past, all soft golden light and rich people corners I'd never stepped foot in. The Maddox Center was, well, let's just say it didn't belong in my world. Glass, steel, gardens on the roof. Looked more like an art museum for rich people who were allergic to fingerprints. Inside, a woman with a tablet escorted me through the lobby, up 37 floors, down a hall lined with abstract art that probably cost more than my entire life. We stopped at a door. He's inside, she said. I pushed it open. Dean Travers sat by a window in a modern leather chair, an oxygen tube in his nose and a bandage still taped across his temple. He looked tired but sharp. Like someone whose brain never stopped even when the rest of him was falling apart. Cole, he said with a small nod. Come in. I did. He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. Please. I sat stiff. You, look better than the last time I saw you. He smiled faintly. I remember smoke. Heat. And a voice dragging me out of the dark. That was you? I guess so, I said. I just saw the car. Didn't really think. That's what matters, he said, leaning back. Most people would have kept driving. Or taken a video. You acted. I shrugged, suddenly uncomfortable under his gaze. He looked at me for a long second. You know what I used to do, right? Yeah. Author. Entrepreneur. You started that company. 5 of them, he corrected. Only 2 were worth a damn. But yeah. I wrote some books. Built some things. Made too much money. Lost a few friends. Learned the hard way that success doesn't mean much if you don't know who you are when you get there. That hung in the air. Then he leaned forward and said, let me ask you something, Cole. Do you feel stuck? That word. Stuck. It hit harder than I expected. I didn't answer right away. Just looked out the window at a city that kept moving with or without me. Yeah, I said. Quiet. Honest. Feels like the world's spinning and I'm just standing here. He nodded like he already knew. That's why I called you. I blinked. Because I'm stuck? Because you pulled a stranger from fire, he said. Because you did something brave, unselfish, and rare. And I don't want that kind of person rotting away in a dead-end life. Then he reached into a leather satchel beside him and pulled out a book. Hardcover. Black. No title. He handed it to me. What is this? It's unpublished. Not even my agent knows it exists. It's the book I wrote when I hit rock bottom, long before the money, the speeches, the headlines. It's everything I know about how to climb your way out. How to build something real. I turned it over in my hands. No barcode. No publisher logo. Just a plain black book. You want me to read this? I asked. No, he said. I want you to use it. He met my eyes. I'm giving you the map. The rest is up to you. I didn't open the book right away. Something about it, the weight, the mystery, the promise in Dean's voice made me feel like I had to be in the right state of mind before I cracked it open. Like I'd be wasting it if I treated it like any other self-help thing I'd seen collecting dust at Goodwill. I took it home, set it on my little makeshift desk, an old door on cinder blocks, and just looked at it for a while. No title. No author. Just matte black cover like a sealed vault. But that night, after I'd microwaved the last burrito in the freezer and the world felt quieter than usual, I finally opened it. The first page was handwritten. If you're reading this, it's because someone saw something in you. That alone puts you ahead of where I was when I started. Okay. Good hook. I kept reading. It wasn't a typical business book. No chapters about quarterly targets or goal-setting worksheets. It was raw, journal style, filled with moments, mistakes, lessons scrawled in ink like the author was confessing instead of instructing. The first rule, don't chase success. Chase motion. Action creates direction. Second rule, everyone's looking for a shortcut. If you find one, it's probably a trap. Third rule, build like you expect it to fall apart. Because it will. The book was broken into phases. The first was called The Spark. You start small. So small it feels stupid. Because the point isn't to impress anyone, it's to prove to yourself that you can begin. Then came an exercise, list 5 things I could do within 72 hours that had a chance, any chance, to make money or teach me something new. I stared at the page. It felt like homework at first. But something about the way he wrote, plain, sharp, no sugarcoating, lit a fuse in me. Like he climbed out of the same hole I was in and this was the rope he'd left behind. So I made the list. 1. Sell the tools in my storage bin, the ones I hadn't touched since my last attempt at being a handyman for hire. 2. Offer to clean out the neighbor's gutters for cash. They were overflowing and I'd heard the guy complain about it twice. 3. Look up resale items at thrift stores and see if anything's trending online. 4. Post a Craigslist ad offering basic labor, moving, painting, hauling junk. 5. Reach out to the warehouse where I used to work and ask if they needed someone for night shift cleanup. Nothing fancy. Nothing I was passionate about. But that wasn't the point. I circled number 3. Next morning, I hit a local thrift shop with $20 in my pocket. Spent an hour digging through dusty shelves and chipped mugs. Then I found it, a vintage Polaroid camera. $10. I looked it up on my phone, same model was going for $60 online. Sold. That night I listed it. Took better photos, added a goofy description, hipster time machine, 1980s vibe included free of charge, and posted it to Facebook Marketplace. Next morning? Gone. Sold to some girl in flannel who said she was starting a nostalgia wall. Profit, $42.13 after fees and bus fare. It wasn't rent money, but it was something. More than that, it felt like flipping on a light switch in a room I didn't know I had. I kept going. By the end of the week, I'd sold a pair of retro headphones, a stack of rare board games, and a broken iPod that some guy said he could harvest for parts. I made just under $200, and I was starving for more. Every night, I'd read another page of that black book. It felt like a guide, a diary, and a challenge all wrapped into one. Then I hit a section that punched me in the chest. Momentum is a liar. It'll make you feel invincible. That's when the fall hits hardest. So before you level up, anchor yourself. Know why you're doing this. Or you'll burn out chasing a finish line that doesn't exist. I realized I hadn't thought about the why. Not really. I wasn't trying to get rich. I wasn't even trying to impress anyone. I just wanted to matter again. To myself, mostly. And maybe to someone else someday too. That was the night I reached out to Dean. Texted the number from the driver. Hey, it's Cole. Just wanted to say thanks. That book, it's doing something to me. He replied an hour later. Good. When you're ready, come see me. There's more. Dean didn't waste time. When I showed up at his place the next day, and I say place like it wasn't a modern fortress hidden behind hedges taller than my truck, he was already waiting for me. Sitting outside on a stone patio, the skyline laid out behind him like it belonged to him. He looked better. Thinner, maybe. Tired still. But clearer. Like some kind of storm had passed through his eyes and left the truth behind. Sit, he said, nodding to the chair across from him. I did. He pushed a leather notebook across the table. This one was titled, The Frame. You read the first, he said. This one's next. But you don't just read it. You build it. I opened it. Inside was a sketch, not a literal one, but a business framework. He'd broken everything into 4 pillars. Value. Proof. Trust. Access. Underneath each were handwritten notes, case studies, scribbles like, customers don't buy products. They buy clarity. They buy identity. He watched me read. I used this model to build 3 companies, he said, and helped a dozen more do the same. It works because it isn't about trends. It's about people. I leaned back. Why are you giving me this? Because I want to build one more thing before I die, he said, voice steady. And I want to do it with someone who hasn't been poisoned by the system yet. He said it like it was obvious. Like that's just how life worked, you cheat death and then hand off your legacy to the sweaty dude who dragged you out of a burning car. I didn't say anything right away. Just stared at him. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. Here's what I'm offering, he said. I bankroll a small venture. Your name on it. Your direction. My blueprint. We pick a niche. Build lean. Launch fast. Test, tweak, scale. I stay behind the curtain. You take the lead. I blinked. Wait, like, start a company? With me running it? That's exactly what I mean. I should have laughed. Or politely declined. Or said something like, thanks, but I'm not the right guy. Instead, I said the only thing that made sense in that moment. What's the catch? Dean gave a slow smile. Not warm, knowing. You have to show up. Really show up. No ghosting. No excuses. And no chasing quick dopamine. You build this with intention. Or not at all. And you're just doing this because I saved your life. That's the spark, Cole, he said. But it's not the reason. The reason is I've seen 1,000 guys with degrees and pitch decks and none of them had the fire I saw in you that night. You didn't hesitate. You didn't freeze. You acted. That's the kind of person I want building something that might outlive both of us. I sat there, heart doing backflips in my chest. He slid a contract envelope across the table. 1 page. No small print. I skimmed it. Seed funding, $50,000, 100% ownership, Cole Adams. Oversight, Dean Travers. Duration, 6 months, renewable. My fingers shook. Think about it, he said, standing slowly. But not for too long. Some moments don't knock twice. He turned and walked inside, leaving me with the view, the contract, and a decision that felt like a doorway. That night, I didn't sleep. I laid on my busted mattress, staring at the ceiling, the black book on one side of me, the contract on the other. Somewhere between them was the version of me I hadn't met yet. The guy who didn't just scrape by. The guy who built. At 6:42 a.m. I texted Dean. I'm in. His reply came within seconds. Good. You start Monday. The first week felt like being thrown into a storm, but a storm you chose to run into. Dean gave me access to a stripped-down office inside a shared space downtown. Just 2 rooms, one for brainstorming, one for execution. Whiteboards, sticky notes, a second-hand coffee machine that worked only if you held the lid down just right. It didn't matter, it was mine. Our goal? Build something simple. Fast. Profitable. We chose the niche together, sustainable packaging for small e-commerce brands. The logic was airtight. Booming market. High need. Easy to brand with purpose. Dean handed me 3 books on supply chains and 2 contacts in the fulfillment space. The rest? That was on me. You've got 4 weeks to launch version 1, Dean said. Then the clock starts. The first week, I did nothing but absorb. I lived in that office. Ate bagels for dinner. Slept in a fold-out chair. Drew circles and arrows and lists until my marker bled dry. I talked to small business owners online. I read forums, subreddits, product reviews. I started to see the pain points. Too expensive. Ugly branding. Doesn't feel personal. Greenwashed and fake. By day 7, I had a name, Boxgood. Tagline, wrap your product in purpose. Dean's only feedback? Tighten the why. He was obsessed with the why. It couldn't just be save the planet. That was vague. Every brand said that. So I reframed it. Not just eco-friendly, founder-friendly. Packaging that made their story shine. That felt right. We launched with 4 starter kits, recycled paper fill, custom-printed tape, compostable mailers, and branded thank you cards. All sourced through small vendors Dean helped me connect with. I used $8,000 of the seed money to get the first run. Paid in full. No credit cards. No loans. Then came the launch day. I sent out emails, posted in small biz groups, ran $100 of targeted ads. Silence. No orders. Just a couple of site visits. Someone clicked about and bounced. I stared at the analytics screen like it was a hospital monitor and my dream was flatlining. Dean didn't panic. He just said, check your message. Check your message. I dug into the site copy. It was safe. Formal. Sounded like a student trying to write for Forbes. So I rewrote everything. Instead of sustainably sourced packaging for e-commerce fulfillment, I said, shipping stuff? Make your box tell your story and not murder the planet while you're at it. I made it weird. Honest. Me. That night? 3 orders. Next day? 9 more. One from a candle shop in Oregon that messaged me. Your site made me laugh. You're exactly what I needed. I nearly cried. Dean showed up the next morning with coffee and said, you hit a nerve. Now double down. So I did. I filmed goofy product demos with my phone. Used my cousin's cat to model mailers. Turned customer reviews into memes. And it worked. Orders trickled in. Slow but steady. I shipped everything by hand. Packed each box myself. Used a little stamp that said packed by Cole and yes, I care this much. After 3 weeks, I broken even on the initial spend. After 6, I had $6,200 in the business account. Not enough to quit your life over, but enough to prove it wasn't luck. But of course, the universe hates momentum. Because right when things were clicking, I got the email. Subject line, infringing product content, cease and desist. Apparently, some packaging megacorp out of Chicago had trademarked the phrase earth-conscious commerce, which I'd used on a single blog post. I laughed, then panicked, then called Dean. He didn't even blink. Rewrite it. Don't fight them. Not yet. You're not big enough to punch back. So I rewrote it. Rebranded half the site in 24 hours. Lost sleep, but kept my shirt. Lesson learned. Don't get too clever until your lawyer has a last name that gets people nervous. That night, I sat on the roof of the office building, sipping warm Gatorade and watching the city blink. It hit me all at once. I wasn't broke anymore. Not rich. Not comfortable. But no longer underwater. And more importantly, I'd built something that mattered. I texted Dean. Still standing. He wrote back. Good. Now scale. Scaling sounded sexy until I actually had to do it. Dean gave me 3 words of advice: automate, delegate, duplicate. Easier said than done when you're still the guy stuffing packing tape into mailers at 2 a.m. with your sleeves rolled up and coffee shaking in your hand. But I listened. Hired a local college kid named Aaron to help fulfill orders. Moved out of the office and into a small warehouse space near the train tracks. Hired a VA overseas to handle emails. Got a website revamp from a friend of a friend who worked in UX. It all worked. Too well, actually. Sales tripled in a month. We got a shout out in a Shopify newsletter. Then an influencer posted a TikTok unboxing of one of our eco kits and it hit 500,000 views in 2 days. Orders exploded. And so did the pressure. Margins got thinner. Inventory started running low. A vendor shorted us on compostable wrap and blamed supply chain disruption. The printer botched a batch of branded tape with Boxgood misspelled as BoxGod, which, weirdly, I almost kept. I was putting out fires faster than I could think straight. Dean could tell. He'd started showing up less, just texts now, brief and cryptic. Your bottleneck is you. Don't build a business you hate. Scale slow is still scale. I wanted to believe him, but the voice in my head, the one I thought I'd silenced, started creeping back in. Told you you'd screw it up. You're a dog walker with a logo. This won't last. And then Maya called. We hadn't talked in months, not since she moved to Portland for her art residency. Back when I was still broke and sleeping on a floor mattress. Hey, she said. You good? I tried to lie. Yeah. Killing it, actually. But she heard it. She always did. We talked for an hour. Maybe 2. She told me about painting with strangers in the woods, about the smell of pine and turpentine, about feeling free for the first time in years. Then she said something that stuck with me. You're allowed to build slow, Cole. Not everything has to be a wildfire. That night, I stared at the black book again. The pages were dog-eared and worn, stained with coffee and sweat. I flipped to a note I'd scribbled weeks ago. Don't mistake speed for meaning. It hit differently now. The business was growing, sure. But I was shrinking. Losing sleep. Missing meals. Snapping at Aaron when he mixed up shipping labels. Saying no to friends. Saying yes to everything else. I didn't want to admit it, but I was becoming exactly what Dean had warned me about. The guy who chased the build, not the reason for building. So I did something drastic. I shut the site down for 72 hours. Posted a message. We're hitting pause to rebuild, recalibrate, and make sure we're doing this right. See you soon. I expected backlash. Instead, I got support. Emails. DMs. Even a few orders saying, take your time. We'll wait. It reminded me people weren't just buying tape and boxes. They were buying me. My story. My honesty. When I turned the site back on, I stripped half the product line. Focused on the top sellers. Doubled down on content and community. Started a newsletter where I told the truth about the grind, the burnout, the learning curve. And then I did the unthinkable. I raised my prices. Not out of greed, out of survival. Out of knowing my value. And people paid it. We didn't just survive. We leveled up. The business was cleaner. Smarter. Healthier. And for the first time in months, so was I. Dean finally called. Not a text. A call. You slowed down, he said. Yeah, I said. Felt like if I didn't, I'd burn everything down. He chuckled. That's the trick most people never learn. When to step back without giving up. I waited. Then he said something that threw me sideways. I'm dying, Cole. Silence. I thought I misheard him. What? I've got 6 months. Maybe less. It hit like a good punch. Dean Travers, the man with the plan, the map, the words that sparked this entire new version of me, was dying. I didn't want to lead with that, he said. But you should know. You're part of what comes next. I didn't know what to say. You gave me something to believe in again, he added. Now I want to give you the rest. My tools. My people. The legacy if you want it. Then he asked, calmly, plainly. Are you ready to take the wheel? I didn't answer Dean right away. What do you even say to something like that? Are you ready to take the wheel? It wasn't just a metaphor. It was a handing over of power. Of responsibility. Of the torch he'd carried through years of building, breaking, and starting again. The guy who once walked away from billions was offering me, a former broke nobody, the keys to a legacy. And all I could think was, what if I crash it? But Dean didn't need an answer that day. He just said, think about it, and hung up. So I thought. For a week, I walked. Just wandered the city like some hoodie-wrapped ghost trying to find gravity again. I sat in bookstores. Listened to strangers in coffee shops. Watched the sun fall behind skylines and the way the streetlights flickered to life like it was the first time every night. And somewhere in the middle of all that stillness I remembered the fire. The one that started this whole thing. The heat. The smoke. The panic. The instinct to run toward it. That wasn't an accident. That was who I was before all of this, before the money, the growth, the weight. I saved Dean because I couldn't not. Because something inside me believed that action, real, raw, terrifying action, could still mean something. Maybe that's what taking the wheel really was. Not controlling everything, but choosing motion over fear. So I texted him. I'm ready. 2 days later, I was standing inside an office I never thought I'd be in. Dean's private workspace. It wasn't flashy. Bare walls. Wooden floors. A giant table covered in blueprints and ideas. No photos. Just stories in progress. He looked thinner, paler, but still sharp, like someone whose mind refused to follow his body's lead. He handed me a flash drive. This is everything I never published. Unfinished plays, essays, lectures, business frameworks, speeches. It's yours now. Use what fits. Burn what doesn't. I took it, heart thudding. Why me? I asked again. One last time. Dean smiled. Slow and tired. Because you listen. Because you act. Because you learned how to build something without losing yourself. Then he said something I'll never forget. Don't be me, Cole. Be better. He died 3 weeks later. Quietly. No headlines. Just a short obituary in a local paper that read, Dean Travers, 64, entrepreneur and author, passed away peacefully at home. But that wasn't true. He didn't just pass away. He passed it on. A year later, Boxgood wasn't just a packaging startup anymore. We'd spun off into creator kits, sustainability consulting, and a community platform for small business owners building with soul. We had thousands of subscribers, monthly classes, partnerships with brands I used to only admire from afar. But more than that, we had impact. We helped real people tell real stories through what they shipped, what they sold, and what they stood for. And every month I'd send out a letter. Not a newsletter. A letter. Just like the ones Dean wrote in that black book. Honest. Messy. Real. I kept a copy of his first line pinned above my desk. Start with less than you want and more than you think. Start there. That's where it all began. Not with the fire. Not even with the book. But with the decision to show up, even when it felt like the world didn't care if I did or not. Now I show up every day. For myself. For others. For the man who handed me the wheel, and trusted I'd figure out where to take it. And I have. One honest mile at a time.